The Almanac of American Politics is a favorite for political nerds like us, and since this is a show for political nerds, it's okay to talk about it. And they do a state-by-state breakdown on an annual basis, talking about the changing in the political landscape of states. And when it comes to Tennessee, it was just a fascinating look at where things stand right now. But there were a couple of reflections, I guess, that stood out to both of you. Let's talk about the first one, Otis, that you picked out, where they said, in the space of a decade, Democrats went from controlling all three branches of state government to barely being relevant at the Capitol. The only significant base of power for Democrats today is in mayoral offices, which they now hold in Memphis, Nashville, and Knoxville. The mayor of Chattanooga is a Republican turned independent.
Right.
Your larger point there is?
My larger point is that this state is now so solidly bleeding red that it's going to take several lifetimes to get it back to the center. And that is not the history of Tennessee. You know, we alternated with Republican and Democratic governors every term since starting in 1970. And so we have had a reputation for being this moderate state, and now
statesmen,
it's gone.
Democrat and Republican both.
Absolutely.
Just very high-class individuals, great reputations.
Roy Herron is a perfect example of that. As someone who was a moderate Democrat, who could get along with Democrats and Republicans, he could never get elected again right now from Northwest Tennessee.
And of course, he's the former state senator who was killed tragically in a jet ski accident. Now, Susan, the line that you picked out was among the state's largest counties, only Shelby, Memphis, lagged. It was talking about growth throughout the state. And Nashville, of course, is doing gangbusters, and Knoxville is, and Chattanooga is. And they said that Shelby had a slight population contraction. The poverty rate in the city of Memphis is almost 23%, higher than any of Tennessee's other three big cities. And for those under the age of 18, the poverty rate is almost 1/3. And that goes back to the crime problem, I would argue.
If people don't someday in this community and throughout the state believe that poverty is also crippling our community as much as crime, because so much of the crime emanates from that community. And it's a tragedy when you have a community like Memphis where 43,000 children every day go to school hungry. That's the kind of poverty that we live in that so many of us don't even see. And that is part of our terrible problem that we're not going to grow until we tackle the poverty problem.
And we do sit in a community that has some of the wealthiest individuals in the state, some of the highest earning companies in the state. Maybe it needs to be a community effort. Maybe we need a crime and poverty summit.
Let me make one quick comment about Roy Herron. I knew Roy Herron when I wrote the political column at the Commercial Appeal. One of the finest men you'll ever meet. You know, you may not remember all the jerks that are in politics, but you always remember the kind and gracious and good ones, and Roy Herron stands out to be among the best.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Well, Otis and Susan, thank you so much for being here. We always appreciate your insight, and we appreciate you at home as well. We'll see you next week for ABC24 This Week.